So we're always cross-referencing everything that we have ever attached ourselves to. Not every memory, not everything we've ever experienced, I would argue, is accessible. It's really what our brain has decided is relevant to meaning and to survival. So what's super fascinating is that our limbic brain, presumably, and I say presumably because honestly, we still don't know everything about the brain. There's a ton of stuff we just don't know. We have pretty good ideas about the hardware and how it's interconnected and how it works together, but we certainly have a lot to learn about how that all works. But what's super fascinating is that the limbic brain can cross-reference almost everything you have ever learned, and therefore it's biased, but it can cross-reference the information of your past that is relevant to your survival or to meaning in less than a second, actually just in a few hundred milliseconds. And it can access your autonomic nervous system, which is basically everything outside of your brain. Your central nervous system is your brain and your spinal column. But if you experience something in the present moment, you pick up sensory information through your eyes and ears and skin and sense of smell and all that. All of our sensory information is going to go into our limbic brain first. It's going to be cross-referenced, and if we pick up on something that's potentially threatening to us, we will automatically turn on the autonomic nervous system, which is just the automatic nervous system. It's wired into our entire body, and our entire body is going to light up and prepare itself for fight or flight. Now, you may not go into a full fight or flight response, but you're going to walk around feeling a sense of unease in your body. We tend to call that anxiety. Sometimes on the more extreme level, we call it panic. But we can scan our environment, and one thing we have to really, really understand is that we're constantly scanning our inner world and our outer world. I would say this is a byproduct or a manifestation of how our brain has developed over the centuries, over the millennia, and that we literally will scan our inner world in a similar way that we will scan our outer world. So our inner world being our imagination, the place of our thoughts, the place of our dreams. So our limbic brain is not the place of our thoughts or our dreams. It's not the frontal cortex. It's the midbrain. It's the limbic system. So our limbic system is constantly scanning for threats, internal and external. When it picks up on a perceived threat, it gets the body ready for fight or flight. We experience that as a really negative sensation in our body. And that's not very fun when you're someone that walks around perpetually perceiving that you are under threat. So if over the course of your life you have developed a sense that simply being out in public, being around people, being at a job, being exposed is potentially threatening, well, you are going to be perceiving threat almost all the time, and therefore you're going to be experiencing a lot of anxiety. What we need to understand is this anxiety is not actually the problem. It's how you're perceiving the moment. It's how you're measuring the present moment in the context of these attachments that you have created over the course of your life. So the way through that, as I was describing with my clients, is to be able to do this thing that we call mindfulness. It's why mindfulness has become a part of it. Everything in psychology should just be called mindfulness-based everything. It's the ability to recognize that there seems to be a difference between your consciousness, your true self, your observing self, the witness that is witnessing the sensations in your body and the thoughts in your mind, seems to be different than your thoughts or the sensations in your body. So you can actually develop the ability to kind of remove yourself a bit, to become an observer and recognize that you don't have to be so fused with your thoughts. You don't have to be so fused with the sensations in your body. In fact, you can learn to look at what's going on in your mind and in your body as simply a source of information in this present moment. If you can really work on accepting it, you can realize that you can experience some pretty profound pain, emotional pain, and yet you don't really have to buy into it. You can experience it, you can observe it, you can look at what it's telling you. And then that way you can really work through your past in the context of the present moment. And if you are able to do that in the present moment, if you're able to notice what your body is telling you, and if that is able to help you understand how you're perceiving the world, well, now you can start to change how you perceive in the present moment. By doing that, you are literally rewriting the algorithms for how your emotional and your cognitive and your physical mind and body work over time. Now that's very real. I'll say it again. You can rewrite the algorithms, you can rewrite the programs, you can rewrite the code for how your emotional brain and your cognitive mind and your physical body responds to the present moment by how you choose to respond in the present moment over time. So we're basically writing code by how we judge in our mind, by how we react in our body. So if we react to a thought or feeling or sensation in a really negative way, if you have a negative feeling in your body, let's say you feel anxiety, because that's a really common feeling, or let's say you feel depression, because that's also very common. The anxiety and the depression are not necessarily the problems. The problem is how we are automatically perceiving the world around us in the present moment, and how that's relaying into our actions in the present moment, and how that tends to perpetuate our perception of the world in real time all the time. So we're constantly updating the code. We're just doing it wrong because we're reacting without thinking, without observing, and our reactions tend to be negative. In other words, we say, I don't like that feeling. I want that feeling to go away. And then we live in a culture that's this quick fix culture that is sort of intertwined capitalism with spirituality and mental health. And we've been told that the sensations in our body that are negative are bad and that they need to go away. We're constantly told, if you have a bad sensation, here's your pill, here's your magic fix, here's your snake oil, and this will make that sensation go away or it'll diminish it and suddenly you'll be better. Now, I can talk later about pharmaceuticals because I'm not necessarily fully anti-pharmaceuticals, but they should never be used as a first line of defense. They should never be used as a primary intervention, ever, when it comes to mental health. We should always try other things first. And in my experience, 9 times out of 10, when you really help someone understand the deeper, let's just call them algorithms of your mind and body, and you help people learn to step back in the moment, you basically teach people how to be mindful, and you teach people meditation, and you teach them that you have to practice daily if you want to change the way that you perceive the world on a mind-body level. If you can change how you respond in the moment, if you can learn to respond instead of react, you can change your whole life, man. And as I've shared the past few episodes, I've been working very diligently on that in my own life. It is not always easy. It's not always easy because emotions are painful. It's especially not easy because emotions remind us of what is painful in our life. And this goes back to that shared reality thing that we have with other people. We assume that the reality that we have attached ourselves to is the same as those around us. It turns out sometimes people around us make choices to do things that are not in alignment with the common reality that we have or the common agreements that we have made. So people do things and we say, hey, that doesn't feel good. That's not fair. You lied to me. You did something to me. And that is not in alignment with how I perceive the world should be. And now I feel angry. I feel hurt. Now, presumably we can give those people feedback and those people will decide to change their behavior to become in alignment with the agreements we have made with one another. But from time to time, people are going to make choices that are not going to be in alignment with how you perceive the world should be. And you might fight against that for quite a long period of time, as I did. But if you're put in a place of submission by your life, in other words, try your damnedest, you're not changing the people around you, or you're not changing your circumstances, well, you are best served by surrendering in that case and learning that you need to adapt and update your system, or you're going to be in for a lot of pain and a lot of misery. So change requires us to slow down, to put our attention in the present moment. I choose to put my attention in my breath because it's my center. It's the place I go back to. It's the place I have trained myself to go back to because it's my constant frame of reference. If I can put my attention and my breath in the moment, if I can learn to observe the moment strictly for what it is, not what I want it to be, then I can make better, more deliberate choices in alignment with my values, or I can simply make a choice to accept the present moment as it is. And by doing that, I'm updating the way I respond to the world. I'm no longer responding based on my past history, based on my past training. Now I'm responding in a much more deliberate and powerful way in this present moment. Now, I got a little sidetracked when I was talking about shared reality. Something I wanted to mention, just because I can't talk about this today without noticing what's happening in our country, in our world on a much broader scale. And I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole because it's a big one. But what's fascinating is we all believe, at least we want to believe, that we have a shared reality as a culture of people. This is why shared realities are so important as a culture of people. That shared reality, the only part of our reality that's truly, we have agreed that is shared, is the Constitution. If we all don't support this thing we call the Constitution, our shared reality is going to fall apart very, very quickly. Now, a word on narcissism, because this has been thrown around a lot in the past few years, and I have never really heard anyone talk about narcissism in a way that actually helps anyone wade through it. So, in the context of what I just have been sharing, a narcissist is basically someone who doesn't care about the rules and the ideas that you have mutually agreed upon, and they know that you are attached to those rules and ideas. They know you're a good person with ethics. They know that you will follow those rules, and they are willing to break those rules. In fact, they use those rules against you. They'll do that on an individual level, and they'll do it on a cultural level. What we see right now is that we have not just one individual in power, but many people in power who are willing to go against our shared reality. They are willing to use the rules and ideas and attachments and ethics that we have bought into against us. They know that we're all good little people, we're all good little sheep, and we are not going to go too far against the grain because we've been taught and trained not to do that. But that gives them power, and I believe we're at a time in our culture, I believe this since far before the election, that we're at a time when we need to update our rules. We need to update how we respond to these types of situations. There's times when you need to get outside your comfort zone and stand up and let your voice be heard. Why? Because we all need to know where we all stand. We all need to know, what is this shared reality that we are fighting for? What do we want? And if we can't stand up and fight for the common ground that is established by the Constitution, we're not going to have this country anymore. We're not going to have the United States of America anymore. It's going to turn into something different. We have someone in power now who wants to be a king, essentially. And we have someone in power who absolutely, without a doubt, has no problem going against the rules and the ideas and the ethics that we all subscribe to within our shared reality. He's exceptionally good at using that against us. Very gifted at using that against us. And we are all so foolish as to believe that there's a conscience in there or a sense of empathy that's going to lead to a change in behavior. This is why so many people have been so surprised over the past 3 years. We think that at some point there's going to be a conscious choice. We think at some point there's going to be a source of empathy there, and he wouldn't really do that, would he? He wouldn't really do that, would he? We all need to understand here, we are not dealing with someone or a group of people, and we can make an argument for that on both sides of the coin, so I'm not even trying to really talk partisan right now. We're dealing with people that don't care about the ethics and the rules that we all have agreed upon. the sort of 10 commandment things that we agree upon. Thou shalt not hurt people stupidly. So if you're going to believe in freedom, you also have to believe in the idea of tolerance. You also have to believe in the idea that, like the Hippocratic Oath, it's all about doing no harm. So let's not go off on that too much, but understand that a narcissist is someone who will go against the rules that you and I have attached ourselves to by being a part of this society. They use those rules against us. It actually gives them great power. Because if you just decide, in fact, that we see in our country right now, we're all waking up to the fact that, oh shit, we thought these rules were going to keep everything in place, but guess what? We've relied on norms and ethics to keep things going for this long. And guess what? Extreme malignant narcissists don't care about rules or ethics. They use rules and ethics against us because they are part of our shared reality. And they know that by using those things against us, they can get what they want. They can get power. So we are going to have to learn how to hold people accountable to a shared reality that's meaningful to us, or we are not going to make it for very much longer. As a culture, we're going to have to adapt. And I want you all to know my 2-year-old just walked in. You want to come over here, Alice? Come here. You want to sit with me?
What are you talking
We'll
about?
end this way.
What are you talking about, Daddy?
I'm talking about how we can work together to make the world a good place.
Oh, my shoe.
Oh, my shoe. All right, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful day. This is what I'm fighting for. Genuine love to all of you. Sorry I rambled a little bit today, but I was in a bit of a rush. Take care. We'll check in again. Bye-bye.